I once saw a bronze mold of Andre the Giant's hand.
Did you really?
At a Dallas hospital. I think that's how we should open this episode.
Why?
Show the picture. I'm sure it exists. If you don't have a picture that you can find, editor, you can just put up any picture of a big hand. These guys won't know.
Have we started?
Huh? Yeah, this is the start of the episode.
Okay, cool. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Kelly.
Am I allowed to say welcome to Clearly and not be rebuked by you for being
Kelly,
lame?
For the rest of this episode, for the rest of my life, until the end of this episode, I'm going to not rebuke you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nope.
Can I rebuke you?
You, do you think that is fair to do something
Absolutely.
to me that I would never do to you for this episode?
Absolutely. It's totally fair. 100%.
Well, if you can,
everybody's on my side.
If you can stand before God with that, then I will let you do what you feels best, knowing that you'll give an account for every idle word. All right.
Perfect. We're agreed. Sounds great.
Great. So does me not rebuking you mean I can't stop you and interrupt you? And
Absolutely, that's what it means.
That is what it means? Yeah. Oh, I can't promise that. Okay, here we go. Let's do this.
Okay.
What are we talking about today?
Why are we here today? Because here's the headline. Hey, guess what, Christian? You should read more fiction.
Oh, yeah.
That's the headline.
Yeah, boss him around. Tell him who's boss for a moment.
I'm boss.
I'm the captain now.
You are boss.
But I do talk to a lot of Christians who are eager to learn, and they want to read a ton of things. And they'll ask me for book recommends, and I'll ask them, well, do you read fiction? And a lot of people say no.
And you know what? It's always the smart ones that say no. And you're like, stop.
Well, it's either I don't have time, or why would I make time for a fiction read when there's so much great content out there that's going to teach me more about the Word of God, about who God is, which is valid concern and question.
It's a good question.
It's wonderful to want to learn and to grow and I write books about
what
topics, that the Bible speaks to that I hope you read that are not fiction. But fiction matters, and we want to convince you through the episode why to read fiction. And so, Jimmy, what would you say if I asked, if someone came up to you and said, why should I make the time? Is it worth my time to read a fiction read, to read a novel, to read a story, a fictional story?
Of course it's worth your time. Why would people?
Why? Why? Give a good reason.
Because most of the Bible is story.
Well, but the argument back to you would be, it's true stories.
No, I just say something, I walk away before they can argue back. So let me just do that. Most of the Bible story, and then you can.
Which is true. The literature genre of narrative takes up a lot
of the Bible
portion.
Actually, probably most of the Bible is prophecy, but
that's true.
That doesn't prove my point. So we're going to go with my statement, which is most of the Bible is story. No, I think that God has designed people to interpret the world through story, to make sense of things through story. You've heard the phrase that we are, as human beings, meaning makers. I think the way we make meaning of everything that happens. That piece of toast, it burned in such a way that it looks like the Virgin Mary or something,
Okay.
So we're just show the picture. I think there's a picture of that toast that looks like Virgin Mary. Show the picture. Okay. It's a real thing. But the point is, we love to live. We live a life of story and narrative, unfolding events that have an arc to them, and we interpret the world like this. This is how, and it's how God has designed the universe. Now, an atheist would object to this, of course, but God has placed us inside a really big novel, essentially, that has a beginning, it's got a protagonist, it's got an antagonist, it's got a thing that's working great, it's got a broken moment of collapse, it's got this downward trajectory and then an up curve, to the bright future at the end of it, and it's a story. So I think that when we enjoy story, we are setting ourselves up to access truth in the way we were, I think, best designed to access truth.
Yeah. Well, and you see Jesus do this all the time, telling fictionalized stories called parables in the New Testament. As people are asking him deeply theological questions, he often is responding by telling a story. And I think stories, one of my answers would be, is that stories target the heart, and nonfiction theological treatise, are good, but they're targeting our minds, our head, they're targeting the thought life. And I feel like a story is targeting formation of feelings and how you see things. It's doing similar work, but coming at it from a different angle, to tell a beautiful story, or to here's a good example. The prophet Nathan does this with David in the Old Testament.
Sure.
David is hard-hearted. He's just killed someone, slept with this man's wife. It's like his huge moment of sin and failure. And he doesn't see it yet, which you're like, how does he not see it? How does he not see it? His heart is hard, right? He has a hardened heart. He has a self-justification script going in his head that has made sense of it all for him. He's not feeling conviction yet. He doesn't seem to come off as a man who's like biting his fingernails and worried and anxious. And so Nathan comes to him, and instead of looking at him and saying, David, you're wrong, let me logic and reason you into your awareness that you have sinned, he doesn't do that. He tells him a story.
Sit down, David.
He tells him a story. He tells
Once
him a story.
upon a time.
Yes. And helps him feel something about the characters in the story, and helps him resonate with injustice in the story and see it that way. And now it has gotten through to his heart. It circumvented the mind. All that self-justification went to the heart. And then at the end of that, Nathan can go, David, but you're that guy. You're that guy. And I have read stories where I have felt that, where I'm in the story and I care about these characters for, whatever they're going through. And the Lord has used stories to help me go, oh, I'm like that person. I see it differently. I feel it differently. Different parts of my heart and ways that I'm feeling convicted are coming up because a story is impacting me. Now, not all stories are created equal. I don't think that they are, but I think stories that are going to celebrate what is good according to the scriptures are going to demonize what is bad with how the scriptures, what God will portray as evil. When a writer tells a story with that moral compass lining up with the scriptures, which a lot of classic literature does, for what it's worth, not all, but a lot of it, then it really has the potential to target our hearts in a way that I think is really good for us.
I agree. I think you're great. I have not yet rebuked you.
Thank you.
And nor will I. And
so great to not be rebuked.
I think we should show them what we mean by giving some.
Yeah, we want to give you some
of our favorites.
Top 3
you,
books,
dear listener.
Fiction reads for us that have been have done that for us.
You want to go first or second or third?
Or third or fourth?
Yeah.
You go first.
Okay. What to pick? I've only read 3 books in my life, but these are the 3 that have really done it for me.
And what would you say, like, put it in a category, like, created a moment of, like...
I will, Kelly.
Okay.
Oh, dang. Was that a rebuke?
It was.
No, you know what that was? That was a
I'm seeing head nods.
A moderate course correct.
I was trying to give us a header for all of the books we're about to share.
You're totally right, Schnookums. Okay, I'm gonna go. Oh, here we go. Book number 1 for Jimmy. See if you can beat this one. This book is called Wise Blood. Dum dum dum. Wise Blood by the late great Flannery O'Connor. Wise Blood was her first novel. She wrote it at was it 29? She wrote this. She wrote in the earlier part of the 20th century. She's an American author. And this book is about a character named Hazel Motes, who is this cynical young guy in the story who is doing everything he can to avoid Jesus like the plague. Mm-hmm. That's kind of his shtick. And it gets really interesting because in his cynical attempt to avoid this sort of like, gosh, Jesus is everywhere in this culture thing that's going on, he goes so far as to create a church that he calls the church without Christ. But in so doing, he can't escape the fact that he's in this just Christ, a word that Flannery O'Connor uses, Christ-haunted world. I love that book because Flannery O'Connor, who was it? Tim Keller exposed her to me. And she loves to write dark novels. So it's a dark story. This is definitely north of PG-13.
Super easy reading.
But she writes these dark stories. She writes graceless stories to show how much grace is needed. So she kind of does this upside down thing that makes you evaluate the Christian ethic, the beauty of Christ, by showing you Christless spaces in some ways.
Yeah.
And there's this one great line in the book.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're saying it. I was like, you got to say this.
Yeah.
You weren't going to say it.
Where
I would.
Hazel says, where the narrator says of Hazel, something to the effect of, there came over him this deep, black, wordless conviction that the way to avoid Jesus was to avoid sin. Which is a really deep and confusing thing to say.
That will preach, though.
Yeah. But essentially, he was so committed, this character, to getting as far away from Jesus and the cross and neediness as he could, that he just concluded, okay, the thing I have to do then is never, ever, ever sin, because then I'll never need the cross, because I don't ever want the cross. And I just, that has struck me, that sentence has struck me so hard. I feel like it's just such a great one-liner punch to the sort of legalistic tendency us religious folks can have. You know, I don't want to be needy.
Right.
So I'm going to obey my way out of dependence on the sacrifice of Jesus. And we kind of give the middle finger to Paul's sentence in Galatians 6:14, where he says, may it never be that I would boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, through which the world is crucified to me and I to the world. So I love that book, and it was really provocative to me.
Yeah, it was great. Okay.
Beat that.
I can't beat that.
You can't beat that.
The Scarlet Letter.
Dang it.
Okay, most of you, if you're listening to this, you're like, oh yeah, I had to read that in high school and blah, blah, blah. It was required reading. Okay, I did too. I read it probably in early high school. But have you read it as an adult? I'm just asking you. If you haven't, it's worth your time again. I read this probably last year. And wow, just the characters in this book, I was like, this is the tension. This is the tax collector and the Pharisee parable that Jesus told in Luke 18, but in a long novel. If you're not familiar with this story, if you're like, I've never heard of this, the Scarlet Letter starts with a woman caught in adultery, and the community's way to deal with her adulterous affair is to have her embroider her own scarlet letter and she has to wear the letter A for adultery on her person all the time. And the book opens with her daughter who has been born to her from this adulterous affair. And she has to stand publicly in front of the whole community for 3 hours, I think, as like a type of shame, and then live in the community. She lives separate from them, always walking around bearing this letter. And yet what happens as you read the book is this woman actually portrays more piety and humility than almost every other character around her. And so you're seeing things that I feel like I see in the New Testament, where you have lines drawn by the religious leaders in Jesus' day of like, why is Jesus hanging out with the sinners? And the religious people are like, I have my act together. And here you're reading a book where you're seeing the moral and the immorality behind the scenes in some of these people's lives, and seeing her kind of devotion. In fact, she's serving the community in some really profound ways. So I really loved it. And I would highly recommend this series by Karen Swallow Prior. Karen Swallow Prior is a literature professor. She's a believer and is starting to release a series of classic literature books with a little introduction to the reader. Reading the Scarlet Letter as a Christian today. That's the first chapter. So it's going to point you to why you should care about this story as a Christian. And it's annotated and has discussion questions. And a lot of the discussion questions are connecting this story to scripture.
Yeah.
It's like, reflect on how this interaction between these two characters is actually a really profound statement about this verse in Proverbs. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So this is, I loved this book. It was a great read. That would be my next.
Okay.
beat that, Jimmy.
Well done, Kelly. I feel challenged. I feel a little threatened by that choice because I do think that was a good one.
Give us your next one.
But I see your classic literature, and I raise you classic literature. Presenting Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh.
Also, this series by Karen Swallow Prior, same release. It's wonderful.
This is wonderful. You read it for. Here's how our marriage works. Kelly will read 6 books. She will tell me about all 6. I functionally read them as I lay in bed next to her, and she tells me about them. And then about 5 to 6 years later, I recall one of them, and I go and I read that one. That's a pretty good summary of our intellectual relationship. That's kind of how it goes.
But I did tell you, I was like, you would love.
She did tell me this. This also is wonderful on audiobook. Do you guys remember what's the show Downton Abbey? Who's the guy from Downton Abbey?
Read it?
Yeah, that's him.
Which guy?
The guy. He's the Beast from Beauty and the Beast in the live action.
Oh, Matthew, but his name isn't Matthew. It's
Matthew from Downton Abbey reads it, and it's wonderful.
I don't know his name in real life.
I'm sounding so feminine with each word I say. Okay. Frankenstein.
Why
Mary
Frankenstein?
Shelley, here's why I like. You're going to notice a trend with
Jimmy's
all these books. The trend is going to be morbidity, darkness, terror. I'm a troubled soul.
But I really liked this book as well. It surprised me.
So you know what this is, Victor Frankenstein. He creates life through unnatural means and for essentially selfish reasons, and it goes really poorly for him. The creatures created, and why this book mattered to me is, and by the way, Karen Swallow Prior exposed me to this notion. This is really a book that asks and answers the question: how does a modern, enlightened, essentially godless human being handle their own sin? Where do they take it? Where are you to take your crimes and your sins and your guilt, modern man, who has no one above you to expiate your sin, to cleanse you from unrighteousness? And so this book is really him being haunted by his own sin, the whole story, with no recourse. You just watch you just watch the devolution of a human life who's being tormented by the makings of his own hands. And I just think it's such a compelling analogy, parable for how we, in a really godless society, have nowhere to take our own brokenness and sin. We have no God above us. And so what do you do with us? And you get these last scenes in the book where he's ultimately ruined and destroyed by his own creation. Yep. And so again, it's dark, but it speaks to me as a story about why Jesus again is so valuable to me. He is the place where I go to deal with my sin and to have it expunged and to have myself cleansed. Right. And so this is another kind of example of like a graceless existence in some ways. Yeah.
Well, it's also, I think, an interesting commentary or almost retelling of this Genesis 3 failure moment. You have a man who's reaching for godness, right? I'm going to create life. That's a like arrogant reach for, I want to be like God.
That's right.
And the fallout of that is death. That's the fallout.
That's right.
It's like you are not God. And your arrogance to do that is not only breeding death in you, but to everybody you love.
Yeah.
And so it's in some ways
you wipe out everything.
You're watching, and it is a warning. So I think a lot of these books, why I love them, is it's warning our hearts in a fresh way, with story language built in that you're like, okay, I don't want to be like that in my life. Today's episode is brought to you by the Live Like It's True podcast with our friend Shannon Popkin. Do you love Bible stories? Then the Live Like It's True podcast is for you. This is a podcast that exists to take deep dives in the most interesting stories in the Bible and then show you why they matter for your everyday life. Each episode features a special guest, which makes for really fun conversation. In fact, I've been on the podcast several times, and I always have a great time with Shannon. Together, we talked about stories like the man being lowered through the roof, the disciples arguing about greatness, and the creation of the first man and woman in Genesis. And we're always asking the question, how does this story change how I live today? So check out the Live Like It's True podcast. Know the story, share the story, live the story. Okay. We'll go a little,
madam.
We'll go a little lighter. I have so many options. I wanted to squeeze in 5 books, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, the next book I'm adding to my recommend list is Little Women. Another kind of classic.
Tiny females.
Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. Okay, I know there's a movie that recently came out that popularized this, but this is a reason why I picked this one on purpose, because there's many reasons to read fiction. I think it does target the heart. It puts truth in story form in a way that can be really refreshing. But also it can expose you to people and characters that become like friends to you and can really model for you something wonderful. What I mean by that is I read this book and I was reading it alongside a friend at the time. And Marmee is the mom. They call her Marmee. That's their mom, their name for their mom, I guess. And I'm reading it going, I feel like I'm learning how to be a better parent from this woman, this fictional mom, which Louisa May Alcott based a lot of this story on her life. But to just read about a mom with 4 daughters in a time of hardship, their father's, at war a lot, and watching her as a mom trying to parent my kids, I'm reading these stories and it is modeling something good for me. And again, this book, not all books are created equal, but the governing principles of this family's life in this book are very much in line with what we see in the scriptures. And so great books for me, fiction books and biographies feel very similar. It's exposing me to other people that I wouldn't always have access to, and wisdom that's showing up in a life. I did feel very mentored by this book. It was very endearing.
Could a guy get into that book?
Yes, actually, if you read the history of this book, when it came out, it was wildly popular with like teens and early 20s, and it kept selling out, and men and women were reading it. Huh. It was like one of the first novels like in this form, like just telling everyday life stories, and just how that plays out. Okay. So it's the story of these 4 sisters and their neighbor, this boy who lives next door, and they're kind of growing up together. It's really wonderful.
Was that who it was?
It's a wonderful, heartwarming story with the complexities of life in it, and there you go.
And a wonderful film. Good on you,
actually,
Greta Gerwig.
The latest film did a great job, but
the only thing better was
Come
Barbie.
on, guys. Jimmy.
What?
Next book. Come on.
Okay, this is my final one.
Your final one.
Awe-inspiring, breathtaking, life-transforming. These are all words that pale in comparison to the words I'm going to use about this book, which is... Actually, there's nothing higher than those words.
I was going to say, that's...
It's called... I'll let you guys see it right here. It's called... Can we get a close-up on that? So...
I have no part in this. Shameless
oh my gosh.
Plug.
Real bad guys. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. Wow, this is so awkward. I went to go grab... But anyways, if you don't have this book, though... Gosh. Oh my goodness.
Jimmy, I rebuke you for this move.
This is double awkward, though, because I did write that. and it's for ages 8 to 12, and parents will also enjoy it. Okay. So for my third book, I don't have a copy of it, but I'm going to say it with my mouth, and it sounds like the following words.
We actually do have a copy of it down the hall in the kids section of books.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, we do. Sorry.
The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mm-hmm. Robert Louis Stevenson. I think all the books I've named are like 10 pages long. So I'm noticing a trend. And I'm also noticing that death and catastrophe and murder are all parts of all of them. But this book, if you got my last album, which, by the way, this month we celebrate 10 years since Vice and Virtue came out.
So crazy.
I'm 100 years old. But I actually ended up writing a song about it called, wait for it, Jekyll and Hyde.
Wonderful. We'll link it. We'll link it in the show notes. We have a live recording of you doing it as well, I think, on YouTube.
Yeah. I just love this book. Mm-hmm. I think probably it has come out of and a lot of these books, Wise Blood has a real similar theme going on. But a lot of these books speak to me because they came to me in a season when I was just still really wrestling with the does he love me not of my relationship with God, and how do I get right with them, and maybe I got to do some more stuff. And these books, a lot of them kind of speak to that. Well, what really is goodness and badness anyways? In fact, ironically, I grabbed Real Bad Guys as a joke, but
Right,
Real Bad
but
Guys
is in that theme
is that book, just for children, and less murder and death.
Thank you.
But anyways, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, if you guys don't know it, wonderful book. Henry Jekyll, scientist, he has a friend. He's like a fine, upstanding member of his community. Edward Hyde is his buddy. He's sort of like this vile, aggressive sort of beast of a man, and not somebody you want to run into in an alleyway. And in fact, somebody does run into him in an alleyway and gets beaten to death by him. And so now they're on the hunt for this guy. And the story goes on, and the detectives are after him. And the last scene happens where they know he's Jekyll's friend, so they bust into Jekyll's house looking for him. They break into the laboratory door. Jekyll's dead on the floor. There's a note on the counter written in the handwriting of Henry Jekyll that basically says, this whole time you thought you were chasing Edward Hyde for the murder of this person. You were really chasing me because I, Dr. Jekyll, am, spoiler alert, Mr. Hyde, right? So Dr. Jekyll is Mr. Hyde. He had concocted this potion. He's a scientist, and it transformed his outer man into this just different guy, kind of creepy looking guy. And he went around sort of like doing mayhem. And I love the book, and I think it's profound because it is addressing what the punch of the book is. The bad guy was the good guy, right? That's the punchline. Right. It wasn't that Jekyll turned into Hyde and then he had all these new feelings of wanting to do evil and then acted on them. It was actually, what you find out in the book, is he had, as Henry Jekyll, all of these broken desires to do evil, and Hyde was his sort of escape hatch to accomplish that. But all the while inside Henry Jekyll was Edward Hyde, was this wickedness, this blackness and this evil. And I felt so convicted by that. I felt like, gosh, I'm so quick to say, well, if I just do these right actions and perform as a decent member of society or a decent Christian, that will make me okay. But if I'm only doing it for my sake, then I still really am the most important being in the universe. I'm the king, and that makes me a lot more like Hyde than Jekyll. Even though on the outside I'm I'm maybe doing the right stuff. So I ended up, writing that song about it, but it was, it has really stuck with me. And it is just short enough that a dum-dum like me can get through it. So I do really like it.
Well, it's doing what we talked about. It's taking these big theological truths and putting them in a narrative that's more memorable, can stick out to our minds and our hearts a little more, that then you can think about it and take these big weighty realities and apply them to your life in some ways that are a little more clear, direct.
Yep.
Targeting the heart.
Yep.
Which is why I think fiction does matter. Why it's good to have good stories in your life that ultimately reflect the bigger story. Which you should know this story, the Bible story, really, really well, because that will help you recognize truth and things that are reflecting that truth in all the other stories that you do watch. So we're not saying read fiction at expense of the scriptures. I'm just saying fiction is a good thing to do. Okay, so I get the last one.
Are you bringing us home?
Yes.
Wait, this better be so good because I just blew everybody's mind. My 3, how do you get higher than my 3?
By C.S. Lewis.
Oh, let me guess. You have Purposeful in your hand? Oh, do you have Friendish?
What? I don't recommend my own books. Excuse me.
Did you say recommend? You know what? I'm not going to rebuke you, though. I'm only going to call it out publicly and let public opinion rebuke you. Go ahead.
So C.S. Lewis, right? You've probably read some of his stuff. You probably like it. He did write nonfiction books, but he also wrote fiction. And you might be going, of course he did, Kelly. I'm thinking about Narnia. I'm not recommending Narnia, but if you haven't read it, you should. Okay, this is my +1. No, I have. I have one.
You can't sneak in.
I am. I'm sneaking a 4th.
Well, then Real Bad Guys counts. This counts as number.
Put it back.
This is 3.5.
Okay, if you've never read Narnia, they're wonderful. This is from a set I was given as an elementary kid. Did you know that by my aunt?
No.
And
they made paper back then.
Oh,
that is amazing.
Gosh. Okay. Anyway, my favorite of the Narnia series is Voyage of the Dawn Treader. We'll talk about that later. That's not why I'm here.
Okay. That's not why you're here.
Send me an email if you're like, Kelly, tell me more about the Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Comment. Kelly is such a boomer. Don't send an email. Put it in the comment section so we can all enjoy the discussion. Why don't you write us a letter?
Is doing email boomer-like?
Seal it with wax and your signet ring.
Anyway,
okay, we're back. That was actually a 3rd rebuke. I'm sorry.
He has
that's
failed.
3 strikes.
He has failed.
I can't do it. I can't.
How offensive.
Should I go? You want to just do this last part by yourself?
No, I would like you to just listen.
That's a tall order. That is a tall order.
Sadly, it is. Okay.
God. Here we go.
Okay, so C.S. Lewis, famous for books like Mere Christianity, did write Chronicles of Narnia. But did you know he also wrote a space trilogy? He got into the sci-fi game. Okay, if you have never read the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis, why not start now? But I want to this is the set of all 3 of them. Out of the Silent Planet, Perelandra, and That Hideous Strength. But I just have to talk about my favorite of this, which is the middle book, which very rarely in a trilogy is the middle, the second one, your favorite. It's my favorite. It's a very strange premise. But it gives Lewis, I feel like, an opportunity to just
explore the space,
explore theology and his own philosophical thoughts in ways that are really fascinating. And so in Perelandra, Dr. Ransom, the main character, is going to this planet that's like a newly created planet. And it's got an Adam and an Eve type character. It has a Satan-like character, and sin has not yet happened. There has not been a fall. There has not been a Genesis 3 moment yet in this planet. And he arrives there, and it is fascinating. I remember I actually listened to the book, and we were on our way home from Thanksgiving. It was my turn to drive home from the grandparents' house where we were, and I'm listening to Perelandra in my ears, and it was just so enthralling that I remember the kids kept interrupting, or, stuff was happening, and I kept pausing it. And I was like, guys, I'm in the middle of this really great part. Can everybody just be quiet for like 10 minutes for me to get through this scene?
Kind of like how she just talked to me.
Exactly. My point is, it was really wonderful. The way he portrayed the Satan character in the book was interesting, as if he is both really tempting this woman and also that he's just kind of idiotic, kind of just like it was the way that it was portrayed. I was like, wow, I've never thought about that. I really loved it. First 2 books are great. The third one was not my favorite. But the second book, Perelandra, I think you could read it on its own. It's wonderful and is very thought-provoking. Yes. The writing was great. And it was fun to read Lewis in a fiction space. So
there we go. We just gave you 6 books.
Okay.
Guys.
So pick
7
one.
if you count Kelly's. 8,
and go
really.
read it. Pick one, go read it. Which, okay, as a total side, can I...
Here we go. You're going to throw in 4 more?
No, I'm going to mention my book.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, but it's related. When I was working on Purposefold, I wrote narrative into my book.
You did. It's my favorite part of Purposefold.
I wrote fictionalized stories that were loosely related to biblical stories. And the reason I did that is because of what we're talking about in this episode, that we both really believe that stories can target the heart and the affections in a way that just targeting the mind cannot. And I was praying about this book and thinking about writing it. And I remember just in my own journaling and praying going, Lord, these truths aren't new. The truths that I need to write about in Purposefold are not new. They're not novel. They're not going to be like groundbreaking to anybody. I just think people don't love them. I think people don't treasure these truths. I don't think people find them lovely. And I was asking God for help to part of my job in writing this book is to make an old truth beautiful to somebody. And the answer was very clear to me. Stories do that. Stories can beautify in ways that just like truth statements cannot. And so I've intentionally inserted, I think it's 6 different fictionalized stories throughout the book because of that, because it was strategic heart targeting. I want somebody's affections to be kindled. And I think narrative does that more than just me talking at you and telling you true things from the Bible.
You were the first chosen. Dallas Jenkins
the chosen was already
should
out.
be paying you royalties.
No.
This makes me sick.
Jimmy.
Everybody in Hollywood with their IP and their man, unreal.
No, The Chosen was already out. Okay. Anyway.
Hey, Dal. All right.
Okay, so go pick up some fiction and tell us what you're reading and tell us about it. Read it with a friend.
Done.
Do it. We are so glad you joined us for this conversation about fiction. We hope that you do pick out one of the books we recommended or another one and read with a friend. We'd love to hear about it, what you're reading, what book you picked out, and what you're taking away from it.
And your social security number. So you can send that to us via email or just drop it in the comments section below. Guys, we love you and no comment on that?
No comment.
You're just letting me run.
I am. I was going to say another thing, but I didn't know how to transition to it.
Because of my distracting social
I was like,
number?
I don't know what you're saying with that.
You think we'll actually get anybody giving us their social?
No, but I was going to say there's wonderful links in the show notes.
Great.
All of the books. And another fun thing, if you're still listening to this episode and you haven't tuned us out yet.
Why would they do that?
There's a wonderful webinar called Formational Fiction, very similar to this, that I love recommending to people from a ministry that we love. I'm going to put that in the show notes as well.
We are just as generous as Father Christmas around here.
Wow. Anyway.
We love you guys.
We'll see you next time.
And we will see you next time. Ciao.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.